Hi, Jenny. What did you do in the holidays?
Well, Susie and I decided to go on an adventure holiday in the Lake District, but most of the adventures happened before we even got there. We were going to take the bus to Euston, then catch a train to Windermere. After that, we thought we could hire bicycles and then ride them to the hostel. It's about 15 miles, but we're both quite fit.
So what happened?
When the bus finally came, it was full, so we couldn't get on. There wasn't enough time to wait for the next one, so we called a taxi. We got in the taxi and asked the driver to go to Euston as quickly as possible, but the traffic was so bad it took nearly half an hour, and we missed the train.
Oh no, you must have been really worried.
I was nearly ready to give up and go home, but Susie was determined to carry on. The taxi fare was nearly £50 as well. But we caught the next train, and when we got off at Windermere, it was so beautiful I was glad we had carried on. We got our bikes and rode them to the hostel, but we fell off a couple of times because our rucksacks were so heavy.
And what about the rest of the holiday?
It was great. We did a lot of walking and all kinds of water sports. Canoeing, sailing, whitewater rafting, and we went rock climbing and horse riding. Susie did a bungee jump, but I didn't want to do that. I went skydiving instead. It was great.
I've got a very close, immediate family, and I love them all, of course. But I've also got a large, extended family, 32 people altogether, and I'm going to tell you about one of them. I'm going to talk about my father-in-law. I've known him for about 10 years now, and he's a person I really respect and get on well with. We became related when I married his daughter. My wife looks quite like him, and she takes after him in many ways. They are both funny and full of life. I like him most because, although he's a successful business person, he doesn't show off, and he always finds time to help you. Finally, we have lots of things in common. We both like golf, and we're both great cooks, so we often do these things together.
A. I present the evening news on live television, which involves doing live interviews on the main news stories of the day. To do my job, you've got to be quick-thinking and not panic under pressure. B.
My job combines a mixture of researching interesting stories, writing, going out and filming, and talking to people about what they've done. I film with a camera crew and work with an editor. I like working to deadlines. It forces you to write accurately in the time slot you are allocated to deliver the story on TV.
C.
I present my own radio show, and it's a mixture of R&B and hip-hop. Presenting isn't just about talking, though. It includes a lot of research. I've got to interview people, so a lot of background work goes into that.
D.
At the moment, I'm working on a website aimed at students. I've got to come up with a new look and feel. It's fun because I can experiment with the design. It's a very creative job, and it's great when you see your final work go live.
E.
I edit the output for interactive television news. A lot of my time is spent cutting or changing the material. I really enjoy dealing with breaking news, and I like the fact that the job keeps changing as new ways of presenting news are developed in response to new technology.
F.
I review all the new films and DVDs each week on a radio program. You have to have patience and an open mind, although watching bad films at 9 a.m. screenings can make this very difficult indeed. But I love watching films, pure and simple.
So, Kashif, where do you come from?
I come from the capital city of Pakistan, Islamabad, which is one of the most modern cities in the South Asian region.
Is that a nice place to live?
Yes, it has a temperate climate because it's surrounded by mountains. The city is divided into zones, administrative and residential areas, industrial sectors, and green areas. It's a very young and vibrant city. It's exciting with lots to do. With lots of commerce and industry, it's Pakistan's largest metropolitan city.
Our next city of culture in this lecture is Glasgow. Glasgow became the European City of Culture in 1990. It is a modern, multicultural city with people from many ethnic backgrounds. in the western part of Scotland, built on both sides of the River Clyde. It is the country's second city and was an industrial centre with shipbuilding as its major industry. Today, the shipbuilding industry is less important, and the city has reinvented itself as a tourist centre, with many visitors to the city.
Yokohama is a coastal city on Honshu Island, on the Bay of Tokyo. It's a major port and also a regional capital. I have lived there all my life, and I like it very much. It's very crowded, the second most populous city in Japan, but it has a cosmopolitan feel to the city because of the Western-style buildings, Chinese temples, and international restaurants, especially in the suburb of Yamate, just outside the city centre, with its churches and tea shops, a bit like England, really.
Well, I finished doing my research, so I need to start working on my dissertation. I've never written one before, but basically I know what I need to do. I'll be explaining what I set out to learn and why, how I conducted my research and what I discovered. And what conclusions I reached, of course. That's the most important part.
We usually take these exams between the ages of 16 and 18. I'm taking 3, but some people do 5 of them. They are really important because they are the entrance requirement for university degrees.
We start studying for them at the age of 14. I'm taking 8, but some of my friends are doing 10. What I like about them is that we are not just assessed on exams. Our coursework is taken into consideration too.
Preparation is the key to giving a good presentation. It can be the difference between a great success and a total flop. So, keep these key points in mind during your preparations in order to make a good impression on your audience. Make sure the audience can see both you and any visual aids you plan to use. Your presentation will go badly wrong if you obstruct screens by standing in front of them. You can make things easier for yourself by checking where you plan to stand in the room in advance and make slight adjustments if necessary. State at the beginning what you are going to talk about and make a list of the main points. Make an effort to ensure that your presentation has a logical order. Emphasizing your key points by using visual aids or by alerting your audience to key points coming up can make a real difference. Make eye contact with your audience, but don't just focus on one person. Look around at different people. Don't make the mistake of simply reading from a script. It will be a recipe for disaster, and you will be doomed to failure. Not only will it affect the flow of your delivery, you will bore your audience too. Making notes and using them as prompts will help you sound more natural and increase your chances of giving a winning performance.
I have a student loan, which pays for my university tuition fees, and I have a maintenance grant on top of that. This is the money that I have to manage on a day-to-day basis. It pays for my accommodation and food. I also have a part-time job, and I use that income to buy other things, such as clothes and CDs.
I've actually been very disciplined and careful with my money so far, and regularly check my balance. I keep a note of my transactions so that I can keep on top of things. Obviously, if I go and get a pizza or something, I don't bother writing that down, but if I take out a lot of money, I do keep a note of it, so that I know what I spent it on. I know that one day I'll have to pay back the loan, but this shouldn't be too much of a problem once I've graduated and got myself a job.
And as we approach the main atrium, you can see some people walking about with sandwiches and coffee. The food court is located here, and you can get most things here, from snacks and light meals to a full 3-course meal, and there are lots of different cuisines to choose from: Chinese, Italian, and of course, British. So let me tell you a bit more about what you can get here. Over there is the Uni Buffet. It's a small cafe where you can get snacks like a chocolate bar or biscuits. You can also get tea, coffee, and other hot beverages or drinks. It's great when you're running out of one lecture to get to another and you need to eat something quickly. Next to it is the Fair and Fast food. It's a fair trade fast food outlet and sells sandwiches, salads, light meals, even homemade hamburgers, which are very good by the way and are made by Melissa over there. There's no junk food here, though. Even the burgers are healthy. Finally, on D floor we have the university refectory. That is, the university restaurant. You can get a 3-course meal here, or a starter, something small like a soup before the main meal. Or main course, where you have a choice of full meals, and side dishes like garlic bread or chips to go with the main meal, and of course a sweet or dessert to finish off your meal. People who don't eat meat can get a vegetarian meal, but for people who don't eat meat or dairy products like milk and cheese, vegans that is, there isn't really a great choice of vegan food.
So, how would you describe the food in your country? What kind of things do people like to eat where you're from?
Well, I'm from Hungary, from Szeged, and our town is quite famous in Hungary for its cuisine. How would I describe Hungarian food? Well, it's delicious, that's the first thing to say, but it's not for people who want to lose weight, and it's not for vegetarians. We use a lot of meat, mainly pork, and we like to eat sour cream and pickles too. Our pickles are fantastic. And of course we use a lot of red pepper or paprika in our cooking, and this makes it slightly spicy. Some people can find Hungarian main courses quite heavy, but our starters, our soups are quite light, and our cakes are just heavenly. The best way to spend an afternoon in Hungary is to go to a coffee shop, buy a cake, and chat with a few friends.
That sounds like a great way to pass the time.
Today I'm going to talk about the Gulf Stream. This is a warm ocean current which originates in the Gulf of Mexico and then flows northeast across the Atlantic Ocean. It influences the climate of the UK and northwestern Europe by bringing humid, mild air with it. Within the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf Stream is very narrow, only 80 kilometres wide, and travels very fast at nearly 5 kilometres per hour, carrying water at 25 degrees centigrade. When it reaches the North Atlantic, it widens considerably to many hundred kilometres, and splits into several smaller currents. Because the water in the Gulf Stream has high salinity, it sinks to the bottom of the ocean when it gets there. The Gulf Stream is one of the strongest currents known anywhere in the world. Without its influence, the UK and other places in Europe would be as cold as Canada at the same latitude. In Chinese medicine, a more holistic view of the patient is taken. Whereas conventional medicine in the West primarily treats the symptoms or signs of a disease, the Chinese approach is to consider the whole person. In the treatment of cancer, for example, Fujian therapy uses special vitamins and herbs alongside modern radiotherapy to strengthen the body's ability to fight the disease. These herbs can help to counter the negative effects of chemicals used in chemotherapy and can also help them to work more efficiently. The Chinese believe that good diet and exercise are of greater benefit to health than pills or injections, and many Westerners are now using Chinese medicine in conjunction with modern techniques.
1. When I need advice about my children's health, I go to the clinic in the high street. 2. Maria cut her hand very badly, so we had to take her to A&E at the big hospital in the city. 3. After the operation, they put him in a bed in the recovery ward. 4. There is no need for you to stay in hospital any longer. Just come to the outpatients department in 2 weeks' time and we'll give you a checkup. 5. A lot of people have colds at the moment, so the doctor's waiting room is very full. 6. I'm afraid he's really very ill, and they don't think he's going to get better, so they've found him a peaceful room in the hospice. 7. The doctor's surgery is open from 8:30 until 3 in the afternoon. 8. The operation will take place in the theatre on the 2nd floor.
So, is it easy or difficult getting a job in your country nowadays?
It's really not easy. It's so difficult. Before I came here, I was working in an accounts department as a trainee, but it was so hard to get the job.
What did you have to do to get it?
Well, I was looking for a job hunting for about 2 months before I found a vacancy, a job with a company.
Was that in the newspaper or on the internet or...
Actually, it was through a recruitment agency, a kind of office where they find jobs for people. Then I had to complete an application form, a form where you give details of your qualifications and experience to the company, together with my CV, a list of my work and education experience. Luckily, I was asked to go for an interview, a formal talk with the company, and they gave me the job. They hired me, right after the interview.
That's quite unusual.
I guess they liked me. I got my contract, my agreement to work for them, a week later, and started working for my salary, my monthly pay with them, after signing the contract.
OK, you can begin to tell me about a person you admire now.
I've had many teachers throughout my education, but of the teachers who have taught me through my school life, Bahar Hanim is the one that I most admire. She was my English teacher at high school. In contrast to our other teachers who were grumpy and unenthusiastic, she was always amusing and thoughtful. Bahar Hanim won everyone over to her as soon as she began teaching us. But although she was fun and helpful in class, she was also quite strict. She pushed us to do our best and punctual. Everyone had to be in class on time every time, and this was something that all of us appreciated. Bahar Hanim had a real interest in her job and in her students, so she was always in a good mood when she entered the classroom. Her classes were always interesting and lively. She was a confident and hard-working teacher, and nothing was too much trouble for her. If a student needed help, she was very generous with her time. To sum up, I can say she was a gifted and talented teacher, and I learned a lot from her, not just English. So, when are you thinking of visiting Hargate?
Next weekend, actually. Have you been there at all?
My parents live there. Let me tell you something about it.
Great. Here's a pen and paper. Draw me a map.
Right. We'll start with the coast. Hargate is on a bay, East Bay, and the river runs through the town and into the bay.
Okay.
So the bay area is very popular with people. And if you go to the waterfront, that's the road that goes along the bay, in the evening you'll see lots of people walking along, doing exercises, street theatre, all kinds of things.
That sounds nice. What's that to the north of the bay?
North of the bay is the harbour. Sailing is very popular, and lots of people have boats there. Some rich people even have very large boats. The area behind the harbour is Castle Hill.
Because there's a castle there.
There's a really nice park there, and good views over the town. If you look south, you'll see the entertainment district, with bars, restaurants, hotels, and lots of nightlife.
Okay.
And to the west of the entertainment district, where the railway station is, you can find the inner city residential quarter, where a lot of the people who live and work here all year live.
Is there another residential area?
Yes, it's on another hill outside the town. It's a suburb called Hargate Hill. Between Hargate Hill and the main town is the industrial sector, where you can find the factories and small businesses, some supermarkets too.
So really the interesting places for me are the waterfront, Castle Hill, the harbour, and the theatre district.
I think so.
So tell me more about the nightlife. I'd like to...
1. 2.205 2. 1.60934 3. 0.1056 4. 16 5. 32 degrees 6. 4.54596 1. 24 plus 8 equals 32. 2. 906 minus 12 is 894. 3. 72 divided by 11 is 6.5454545. 4. The square root of 16 is 4. 5. 1 fluid ounce is the same as 28.4131 cubic centimetres. 6. 12 inches equal 1 foot. 3 feet equal 1 yard. 7. 73 kilometres per hour. 8. 64%. 9. $520.99. 10. 6,522,313. 1. 20,482. 2. 58,926. 3. 4,001. 4. 10,500,000. 5. 79,425,672.
Uranium concentrate is vital for nuclear power production, but the byproducts can also be used to make nuclear weapons. World production of uranium in 2007 was 41,279 tons. Nationally, Canada produced the most uranium, 9,476 tons, followed by Australia with a total of 8,611 tons. Australia has the highest resources of all the nations, with an estimated 23% of all the uranium in the world. That's nearly a quarter. Canada, by comparison, has only 8% of the global uranium resources, about a third of Australia's. Surprisingly, the huge nations of China and India have only 1% of the total uranium resources. So, how much uranium is needed to make a nuclear warhead? Well, it takes 12,000 tons of unprocessed uranium to make 10 tons of yellow cake. This yellow cake then has to be further processed to produce weapons-grade uranium. 10 tons of yellow cake can produce only 20 to 25 kilograms of this weapons-grade uranium-235, which is enough for one nuclear warhead. It could also provide 600 kilograms of civil-grade uranium, which is equivalent to 30 million kilowatt-hours, enough to power Greater London for a day.
What happened when our loving and cheerful child turned 13? Where did our cooperative and enthusiastic child go? And who is that rebellious person in their place? Today, I'm going to talk briefly about teenage behaviour. The good news is that it doesn't last long. Studies show that uncooperative behaviour in boys begins at 13, peaks at 17, and by early adulthood, most of it has stopped completely. Teenagers are often moody because, although they are physically adult, their brains are not mature enough to think in a sensible way. This means that they become frustrated that they are not allowed to do all the things that adults do.
So, Mina, you've told me about your best friend. What do you think are the most important qualities for friends to have?
For me, the most important things are for friends to be even-tempered and kind. They help you if you have problems, so they need to be sympathetic. I like people who are cheerful. It's just depressing to be around people who are pessimistic about life. I don't like people who are selfish either.
Have you ever lost anything that was really valuable?
I haven't lost anything that was expensive, but I have lost things that were valuable to me, but only to me. 2 years ago, I lost a great jacket. It was a used, stripy, yellow and white polyfibre skiing jacket. It was quite soft and smooth, but a bit bulky to keep out the cold.
What's the most important thing you own, and why is it important to you?
One of my most important possessions is my bag, because I keep all my other important things in it. It's a large, square, flowery Italian shopping bag, quite old and battered now, but I still use it because I can get all my stuff inside it.
Tell me, What's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you?
Oh, that was when my husband's colleague invited us round for dinner. I had a bit of wine, and we were having a good chat about valuable old objects, when Roberto brought out this big, antique, blue-coloured Chinese ceramic flower vase and asked me to hold it. Well, you can guess what happened. It slipped, crash, into a million pieces all over the floor.
Good morning, North College Library. How can I help you?
I was wondering if it was possible to join the library.
Are you a student at North College?
No, I'm not, but someone told me it was possible to join even if I wasn't.
That's right, it is. Are you over 18? That's our minimum joining age.
Yes, I am.
That's no problem then.
Could you tell me what I have to do to join?
Well, you'll need to come into the library and fill out some forms. You'll also need to bring 2 passport photos with you. We also need 2 documents for ID, so a driving license would be fine.
I've got that. And what else? A credit card?
No, it needs to have your address on it.
Shall I bring a bank statement? Would that do?
That'll be fine.
Good. Does it cost anything to join?
Well, it's free for students here, but otherwise it's £125 per year, or £25 if you've got a current student card from another college.
I was at Westerly College until last year, but now I've got a job at Jefferson Steel Factory. It's more expensive than I thought. My local library is free.
But you'll find they don't have the range of reference books or facilities which we buy for our students. That's why you have to pay to be an external member.
I see. How many books can I borrow?
We allow 12 items borrowed at any one time if you're a student, and that includes CDs, DVDs and videos. However, it's only 8 items for members of the public.
Fine. And how long can I have them for?
Well, you can have both fiction and reference books for 4 weeks, which isn't bad, really.
And what happens if I return them late?
Like all libraries, there's a fine system in place. The minimum fine is £1.50, but it can be much higher for some items, up to £5 per week. We'll give you a booklet with all the details when you join. You can always renew items, if they're not required by anyone else, by telephoning or logging onto our website.
What about the computers? Can I use them free of charge?
For college students it's free, but for external members like yourself, the first hour is free, and then we make a nominal charge of £1 per hour thereafter.
Do I have to book in advance for them?
Oh, yes, it's advisable. Most people tend to book 24 hours in advance, although sometimes you can get one with only 6 hours' notice. However, the earliest you can book a computer is 48 hours before you need it, and you can only book 1 hour at a time. If no one else has booked the computer out, then you may be able to have another hour if you want. We have a wide range of databases, so the computers are in great demand.
I'm thinking of doing some writing, and I might need to access national newspapers. Do you have them on these databases?
We do indeed. We've got all the big nationals, The Guardian and The Observer, The Independent, and The Times and Sunday Times. We've also got all the local papers and a wide selection of magazines.
Excellent. I assume you have photocopying facilities?
Of course. 5p a sheet for both A4 and A3 black and white copies, and 40p a sheet for colour. You can get a card from the counter here. It doesn't take coins.
Okay. Oh, by the way, another thing I was wondering about was if you ran any writing classes through the library.
We do, but you'll have to speak to John Grantingham about that. He's our resident author. He runs the creative writing classes.
John Grant. Could you spell that for me, please?
Certainly. GRANTINGHAM.
Are the classes here at the library?
Yes, he's here on Thursday evenings. Oh, no, sorry, Friday. He's just changed it. You
First of all, I'd just like to say, Christina and Ibrahim, that I really enjoyed watching your video about student life last week. And I could see that the rest of the group did too. You did really well, and I hope that you got a lot out of it. I'd like to use this tutorial as a feedback session where you reflect on the experience of doing the project. So, Christina, I was wondering, what did you enjoy most about making the video?
I liked using the camera.
Is it the first time you've operated one like that?
Yes, it is.
Well, the results were very good. Anything else?
I also enjoyed visiting one of the British students we filmed. I'd never been inside a British home before.
Okay, Christina, thanks. What about you, Ibrahim? What did you enjoy?
Well, for me, it was a very good chance to get to know students who are on other courses, because everyone in our group is studying English, and we don't usually have much to do with the rest of the college.
Yes, good. Do you think you'll maintain the contact now?
Well, I hope so. I've invited 3 of them to have dinner with me next week.
Great. If you haven't decided what to make yet, I can tell you they'll love trying Arab dishes. And, of course, it's good for your English, too. Christina, what did you find? What was the most useful aspect of the project from the point of view of the English practice?
I think when we were being shown how to edit the film, we had to follow the instructions, and that was very good practice for me. And I also learned some technical words that I hadn't heard before.
What about you, Ibrahim? What was the most useful for your English?
It was listening to the British students, because they don't speak as slowly as most of the tutors on our course. I think they speak at natural speed, so it forces me to get used to it. And they use a lot of slang.
So you learned some new words which will be useful?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad it helped. Well, we've talked a little bit about enjoyment and about language practice. Were there any other benefits? What else did you feel you'd learned from the project? Was it useful in other ways?
Yes, well, firstly, I learned how to use a video camera, and also I think I really learned a lot about working together with other people. I've never done anything with a group before, and we had to find ways of cooperating and compromising, and sometimes persuading people when they don't agree with you.
Yes, that is a very useful experience, I know. What about you, Ibrahim?
Well, I think I learned a lot about how important editing is. When you're filming, you think that everything's going to be interesting, but in fact we cut around half of it in the end, and then it was much better.
Good. Well, one last thing I'd like to ask. What mistakes do you think you, as a group, that is, made? I mean, to put it another way, if you had to do it all over again, is there anything you'd do differently?
We didn't plan very well. For example, we didn't decide on dates when we'd complete each separate step of the project, and we should have agreed about that in the beginning, because we were always late with everything.
Right. Anything else?
I think we should have tried to experiment more with the camera. I mean, with angles and the focus and that kind of thing.
So you should have been more ambitious. Do you agree, Ibrahim?
Not really. In fact, I think we were too ambitious. We were inexperienced, and we didn't have a lot of time, and we tried to do too much, to make a long film. Next time I would make a shorter one and try to get the quality better.
Well, that's very interesting. Next semester, we will be doing another video project, with a different content, of course, but you'll have an opportunity to put into practice what you've learned this time. Do you have any ideas about
We have to get ready for our hula demonstration for our class. We need to show what we've learned about Hawaiian culture.
Let's start with the decorations. I don't think they should be too elaborate, but we want to evoke a feeling of being in Hawaii.
I think floral decorations would work. We can make garlands and leis out of paper flowers. They would be easy to make and still give the right feeling.
That's a good idea. What about our costumes? We need to be careful to avoid stereotypes like grass skirts.
Since we're going to demonstrate the ancient style of hula, we don't need elaborate costumes. We can make simple costumes that look like tapa bark.
Okay, I guess that wouldn't be hard to do. What about garlands of leaves? Aren't they part of the traditional costume?
Yeah, they are, but I think the tapa skirts are enough. Otherwise, we'll spend all our time making decorations and costumes.
I suppose so. No garlands, then. But we do need an altar. That's really important because that's part of what we learned about the place of hula dancing in Hawaiian culture.
Of course, we'll have to spend some time on creating an altar, but we can't forget to actually practice the dances that we're going to demonstrate.
Did we decide to use the graceful movements with all the swaying?
No, we're demonstrating the ancient style. Remember? We're doing the energetic dances.
Right, of course. With the traditional music, the drums and chants. Okay, let's start practicing.
We've looked at plant life in various deserts around the world. Let's talk today about plants in the Taklamakan Desert.
What I understood from the reading is that there aren't a lot of plants throughout the Taklamakan Desert, but that many plants live in the transitional area on the desert fringe.
That's exactly correct. Conditions in the desert are extremely harsh, but around the edges, plants have been able to adapt and thrive, and some species are actually quite prolific. Of course, the environment there is still extreme, and the plants have some interesting adaptations.
There are still a lot of stressors on the desert fringe. The rain there is sparse, right?
That's true. The desert fringe is very dry and is subject to extreme temperature swings, and these conditions can cause plants a lot of stress.
Another stressor is, because of the dry air, there's rapid evaporation, so it's difficult for the plants to hold on to the water they take in.
I read that some plants are actually able to determine when they've lost enough moisture and have the ability to close their pores so they don't lose more.
Yes, that's one of the interesting desert plant adaptations. Another way plants thrive in the desert is by having large root systems so that they can accumulate water taken from deep in the ground.
We've been discussing the way the eye works and the importance of vision. Let's apply some of this and talk today about how vision affects an athlete's performance. Okay, so when a basketball player, let's say, is out there on the court, what does he need to pay attention to?
The player needs to focus on the ball. He needs to always know where the ball is.
Correct. That's important, but that's not all. The player also has to be aware of what the other players are doing. He has to anticipate their maneuvers so he can be ready to respond. This is where peripheral vision is important. The player may be looking directly at the ball, but he also has to be aware of what's going on near the boundaries of his visual range. He has to be aware of the actions around him.
Players look at the ball, but they also scan the whole court, right?
That's right. They need to go back and forth between focusing on one point and scanning the entire game so they can know what the rest of the players are doing. Of course, they don't stop to think about it. There isn't time. Good athletes do this unconsciously.
They do it so fast, it's indiscernible to us when we're watching the game.
But they don't respond indiscernibly. When you see a player move in to shoot a basket, he's there because he was able to coordinate all the information he took in about the action of the game so he could make his move.
Qualified nurses must have several years of specialized training following high school. In the United States, for example, the bulk of nursing schools offer 4-year programs. A nurse who graduates from such a program and then passes a licensing test is qualified for a variety of professional-level jobs. Many nurses choose to go on to graduate school and get higher-level degrees. In the United Kingdom, about 25% of nurses have graduated from degree programs. The rest generally have studied in 2-year programs. This situation will change soon, however, and in the future all nurses in the UK will be required to have a degree in order to qualify for professional nursing jobs. Despite the need for nurses everywhere, there is still a decline in applicants for nursing programs. Many nursing schools in the United States have reported a decline of applicants of 5% or more over the past decade. This situation stems from a variety of causes. An important one is that more women are interested in professions such as doctor or lawyer, which in the past were considered to be men's professions. It's been estimated that there will be 114,000 vacant nursing jobs in the United States by the year 2015.
There has been a good deal of research on how we use our leisure time. Study after study has shown the importance of using leisure time well. According to research, people who spend their leisure time engaged in passive pastimes, such as watching TV, actually end up feeling less rejuvenated than people who choose more active leisure time activities. People who report feeling the most satisfaction with how they spend their leisure time engage in a range of activities for relaxation, both physical and intellectual. Among the most popular pastimes reported by adults, physical activities include a variety of sports, playing with their children, and gardening. Intellectual activities include reading, playing computer games, doing puzzles, and using the Internet. People who engage in a variety of active pastimes tend to be healthier, both physically and emotionally. It is obvious that we need to engage in leisure activities that exercise both our minds and bodies to avoid suffering problems such as obesity and depression.
Train travel became increasingly common in the mid to late 19th century, despite the difficulties involved with this mode of travel. In many ways, trains were more efficient than other available means of transportation. But there were still drawbacks. Travel at night was tricky, for example, because trains lacked effective methods of illumination. Rides on early trains were often rough because of the way the train tracks were laid, although this improved over time and riding the train became more comfortable. As train travel became more popular, the tracks became more crowded, and this was one reason why trains were frequently vulnerable to delays. Train travel could also be dirty because the smoke from the locomotive could not be kept away from the rest of the train. In the early years of train travel, there were few disasters, so passengers generally felt safe. Trains were the major means of long-distance travel for a long time and had major effects on society and the economy. Clearly, the initial cost of building the railroads was well worth it, despite the drawbacks involved.
We need to organize the information for our report on the history of subways. We agreed that our topic would be the London Underground?
Yes, it's such an intrinsic part of London. It's famous worldwide. It really is the centerpiece of the city.
And it's been around for a long time. We should mention that it first began operation in 1863. I think it's important to point out that at that time they used steam engines to pull the trains.
Yes, that's really important information because steam engines were intrinsic to the way the system was built. The tracks couldn't be very deep because the engines had to release steam.
Right. The tunnels had to be close to the surface of the ground, and there were vents to release the steam to the streets.
So we should explain all that and then talk about how the system changed when electric trains were introduced.
That made a big difference because the tunnels could be deeper since they didn't have to worry about releasing steam.
And they had developed methods that made it possible to dig deeper tunnels because they used a sort of shield to support the tunnel while the workers were digging.
Right, the Harlow Great Head Shield.
People were happy with the deeper tunnels because it wasn't necessary to destroy streets and buildings to dig them.
Welcome to City Bus Tours. Our tour today will take us not only through the city, but also to some of the nearby suburbs as we explore the historical development of the area. Before we begin, let's take a look at this map, which shows the places we'll be visiting today. We'll start here on the west side of the river, which is all urban area. We'll pass by the commuter rail station here, right by the river and near the bridge. This is a brand new station since the train system was completed just last year. Commuter traffic was becoming a huge problem in our area, and there's been a marked improvement in the traffic situation since the trains started running. After we look at the station, we'll cross this bridge, which spans the Rocky River. The bridge was built 100 years ago. At that time, we had the city on this side, but it was all rural area on the other side of the bridge. The building of the bridge accelerated development on the east side of the river, and now it's a growing suburban area with a lot of sprawl. On that side of the river, we'll take a look at some historic houses that still exist there, and then stop for lunch at Miss Mary's restaurant.
Welcome to the university's Museum of Ancient Studies. As you may be aware, this museum was created by professors and students as a place to exhibit objects and information about ancient civilizations that they've uncovered in their research. Visiting scholars to the university have also contributed a great deal to the museum, and there's a room created especially for items they've donated. However, that's in room D, near the end of our tour, so we'll talk more about that later. We'll begin here, near the entrance in room A. This room is all about agricultural tools. It encompasses tools from several different cultures, and it's interesting to note the similarities and differences among them. You'll also find a few examples of agricultural-related objects in room C, where we have an exhibit of items found in more recent excavations, but most of them are here in this room. Let's move ahead now to room B. This is my favorite part of the museum. The exhibit you see in here explains the mythology of several ancient civilizations. Some of the old myths are lovely, fascinating. If you're interested in mythology, our gift shop has a number of books for sale on the subject. Okay, let's move now to our right, to room C. Here's the recent excavations exhibit I mentioned earlier. There are a variety of things in here that have been recently uncovered by scholars connected with the university. Tools, cooking implements, clay tablets and tokens, and more. Just ahead is the visiting scholars' room, and past that's the gift shop in room E. There, in addition to the books I mentioned, you can buy copies of many of the items on exhibit in the museum. So don't forget to spend some time there before you exit. Now, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon and welcome to the tour of the Springfield Circus. Today you'll get to see the circus rings up close, visit the places where the performers work and rest, and even meet an animal trainer and some animals. Let's start our tour with a brief history of the Springfield Circus. It was founded a century ago right here in Springfield and has been going ever since. The original owner sold it after 25 years, and it's been under ownership of the same company for the past 75 years. Although the owners have changed, the place has not. The Springfield Circus has always put on its performances in this venue. Unlike other circuses, it has never travelled around with tents, but has always held its performances in this permanent spot. When the Springfield Circus was first founded, it put on large entertainments filled with grandeur for massive audiences. Since then, the show has been reduced in size somewhat, with fewer performers and acts. The show always begins with its famous parade of exotic animals. This is followed by dancers on horseback, and then the clowns enter the ring. We may get a chance to meet some of them today. They're always the most popular part of the show. Okay, let's go out to the rings now so we can see where the performers work. Hold on to your tickets, as you will need them to be admitted to the show after the tour.
Mime is a type of performance carried out without the use of props or language. The mime's skill is the ability to make the audience believe that objects are present when in reality they're not. Mimes create illusions of everyday activities. For example, a mime may act out climbing the stairs or opening a window, and do it so skillfully that it almost appears that the stairs or window are really there. Mimes use gestures to show the presence of objects. For example, a mime may use his hands to outline the shape of a box, then climb inside the imaginary box. In addition to interacting with imaginary objects, mimes may act out stories in which they portray different characters. The stories usually show the characters involved in some sort of conflict, but it's all done in a humorous way, meant to make the audience laugh.
Hello, is this the Hospital Fitness Centre?
Yes, I'm Tim Smith, a trainer here. How may I help you?
I'm interested in taking classes.
Just let me take down your information. May I have your name?
Yes, it's Amanda Clark. That's Clark, C-L-A-R-K.
R-K. Right. And what kind of classes were you interested in?
I need to get some exercise. Do you have aerobics exercise classes?
Yes, we do. We have several levels of exercise classes. Are you a beginner?
Yes, I am for aerobics classes, but I've taken other classes previously. I took yoga classes last year.
So, you've taken yoga classes. Very good. And why are you interested in exercise classes with us now? Do you have a referral?
Yes, I do. My doctor told me to call you. I've been feeling depressed, and she said it would improve my mood.
I think we'll be able to help you with that problem. Medical research shows a clear link between exercise and mood.
Also, I've been getting a little heavy, and the doctor thought that regular exercise would help me stave off any big weight gain.
It certainly will. Exercise has many benefits. We also work a lot with the elderly here, who may be suffering from dementia or decrease of cognition. But you, of course, are much too young for that. However, we can help you with the issues your doctor wants you to work on.
Our lab assignment is due soon. We need to go over the steps to follow for our experiment.
The professor gave us an outline. We're investigating the effects of certain substances on a certain type of bacteria, right? So the first thing we have to do is grow our culture in the lab.
Right. Okay. Then we'll have to introduce the different substances to the culture.
Yeah, and then carefully monitor it at regular intervals. I think every 12 hours would be about right. We should take turns doing that.
Good idea. Let's leave a notebook in the lab so we can each record what we see. We'll have to ascertain whether there are any changes.
Yes, it's fairly straightforward, isn't it? At the end, we'll get together to write up the report. We'll have to describe the outcome.
Okay. I'm ready to get started.
When you look at a tree, you may notice only the branches and leaves. A closer look shows that there's actually a great deal more going on. Trees provide homes to a large variety of terrestrial animals, from tiny insects to large birds, such as owls. Insects live beneath the bark, providing a source of food for many types of birds. Squirrels and birds nest on the branches or in the trunk. Small animals defend themselves by hiding among the leaves. The benefits of trees also extend to aquatic animals. The shade from trees keeps water cool, protecting aquatic animals from the heat of the summer sun. The roots hold onto the soil, which keeps it from being eroded by the rain. This is a protection for aquatic habitats, as it prevents soil from running into the rivers and polluting them. Clearly, trees are very important. If forests vanish because of logging or other activities, the impacts on the environment will be great.
Welcome to the National Bird Sanctuary. The Bird Sanctuary provides us with the opportunity to study many aspects of the lives of the migratory birds that pass through here every year. This is a breeding area for many different species, and we'll likely see a number of them on our walk today. On our right, just past the entrance, you'll see a list of all the species that have been observed here. You'll notice several nocturnal species as well as diurnal. They spend the warm months here, but leave in the autumn as they can't endure our cold winters. OK, take a look at your maps. We're beginning here at the entrance. As we walk through the sanctuary, it's imperative that you not stray off the trail and that you be particularly careful to stay out of the restricted area, all along the trail to the left here. The restricted area protects breeding birds from disturbance. All right then. That trail over to the right leads to the gift shop, but before we head there, let's continue to the end of this trail on the left to the observation platform. Here we are. We can look out over the wetlands from here and observe the water birds. I'll leave you here to observe as long as you like, and I'll meet you afterward at the gift shop. It's at the end of that trail I pointed out to you earlier. Before I leave you, I'd like to remind you that this bird sanctuary was built entirely by volunteer labour and donations. You can imagine what a feat that was and what it takes to maintain it. Please consider giving a donation before you leave. You'll find a box for that purpose along the trail right before you arrive at the gift shop.
Good afternoon, Dreamtime Travel. How can I help you?
Oh, hello. I'm interested in the holidays you offer along the coast near here.
Yes, we operate several tours up the coast. Where in particular did you want to go?
Well, I like the sound of the holiday that mentioned whales. Was it, whale watching?
Oh, that's our Whale Watch experience. It's very popular, and it's based in a lovely little town with nice beaches.
Oh, right. And how long does it last?
It's 2 days. That includes 4 hours travel time each way from here.
Good. I don't want to be away any longer than that. So, is that by coach?
Actually, it's by minibus. We like to keep those tours small and personal, so we don't take a whole coachload of people. In fact, we only take up to 15 people on this tour, although we do run it with just 12 or 13.
Oh, right. So, do you run these tours often?
Well, it depends on the time of year. Of course, in peak times, like the summer holidays, we do them every weekend, but at the moment, it's usually once a month at most.
And when is the next one going?
Let me see. There's one in 3 weeks' time, which is April the 18th, and then we don't have another one until June the 2nd.
All right. And is April a good time to go?
Pretty good, though the really good time is later in the year. I have to say, though, that the whale sighting is only one of the many things offered.
Really?
Yes. The hotel itself where you stay has great facilities. It's called the Palisades.
The Paris what?
No, it's actually the Palisades. Pallillises. It's right on the main beach there.
Oh, I see.
All of the rooms have nice views, and the food is really good there too.
Oh, right. And what about the other things, that are included in the price?
Oh, there are lots of things. If you don't want to do the Whale Watch cruise, your guide will take anyone who is interested either on a bushwalk through the national park near the hotel, and there's no extra charge for that, or on a fishing trip. That's an extra $12, I think. And there's also a reptile park in town. That costs more or less the same.
No, I think I'd prefer whales to snakes.
Yeah. And if you just want to relax, you're free to sit by the hotel pool or go down the beach. Oh, and they also have tennis courts at the hotel, but you have to pay for those by the hour. But there are table tennis tables downstairs, and they're part of the accommodation package. Just speak to your guide.
Well, that sounds good. So how much is the basic tour price?
At this time of year, it's usually around $300, but let me check. It's actually $280.
And the next tour, are there any places on that one?
How many people is it for?
There are 2 of us.
Yes, that should be fine. Can I just mention that we require all bookings to be made at least 14 days before you travel to avoid cancellations of tours? And if you cancel within 7 days of departure, you will have to pay 50% of your total booking.
Okay.
And you also need to pay a 20% deposit at the time of booking.
Can I pay that by credit card?
Yes, you can.
All right, what I'll do is I'll talk to my partner and get back to you.
Fine. So I'll make a provisional booking, shall I? 2 for the Whale Watch experience. Let me issue you with a customer reference number for when you call back. Do you have a pen?
Yes.
Okay. It's 39745T. That's T for Tango. When you call back, ask to speak to the tour manager. That's me, Tracy.
Fine, I will.
Excuse me, I was told to come here for advice about, management diploma courses.
You've certainly come to the right place. Hi, my name is Monica.
Nice to meet you. My name is Andrew Harris.
So, Andrew, have you seen our diploma course prospectus yet?
Yes, I've already looked at it. In fact, I thought the information on course content was really useful. But I'm afraid I'm a bit confused by all the different ways you can do the course. Full-time intensive, part-time, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see if I can help. I think each course type has its advantages and disadvantages, so it really depends on you, your own study habits, and your financial circumstances, of course. Are you working at the moment?
Yes, I've been working in the administration section of the local hospital for the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I worked in the office of a computer engineering company for 2 years. So I've got about 5 years of relevant work experience.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hoping to focus on is personnel management.
I see. And are you planning to leave your current job to study, or are you thinking about just taking a year off?
I want to know what my options are, really. I don't want to quit my job or anything, and my employers are keen for me to get some more qualifications, but obviously it would be better if I could do a course without taking too much time away from work.
Right. So you don't really want to do the full-time course, then?
No, not really. It's also a question of finances. You see, my office have agreed to pay the cost of the course itself, but I would have to take unpaid leave if I want to study full-time, and, well, I don't think I could afford to support myself with no salary for a whole year.
Okay. Well, you have 2 other possibilities. You could either do the part-time course, that would be over 2 years, and you wouldn't have to take any time off work, or you could do what we call a modular course. You could do that in 18 months if you wanted, or longer. It's quite flexible, and it would be up to you.
So what does the part-time course involve?
For that, you would join an evening class and have a lecture twice a week. Then you'd have to attend a seminar or discussion workshop 1 weekend a month.
What kind of coursework would I have to do?
Well, it's a mixture. You'd be expected to write an essay each month, which counts towards your final assessment. You have a case study to do by the end of the course, which might involve doing a survey or something like that. And also you need to hand in a short report every 4 weeks.
So that's quite a lot of work then, on top of working every day. It sounds like a lot of studying, and really tiring.
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't have much free time.
What about the modular course? What would I have to do for that?
Well, that's where you get the opportunity to study full-time for short periods. That way you can cover a lot of coursework and attend lectures and seminars during the day. And each module lasts for one term, say about 12 weeks at a time. There are obvious advantages in this, the main one being that you can study in a much more intensive way, which suits some people much better.
And how many of these modules would I have to do to get the diploma?
The current programme is 2 modules, and then you have to choose a topic to work in more depth. But you can base that on your job, and so you don't need to be away from the office. And how long it takes is up to you.
Mm-hmm.
The important thing is that you don't have to study and work. You can focus on one thing at a time.
Yes, I can see that. It certainly sounds attractive. It would be more expensive, though. I mean, I'd have to support myself without pay for each module.
That's true, so that might be a problem for you. Look, why don't you talk this over with your employers and then